Hi, I would like to talk to you today about the June 29th full moon. It's a very interesting chart and a very interesting time for all of us to go inward and to gain clarity and use our mind to think outside our usual way of thinking. So let me get into it right now. I'll share my screen. And this mandala of synthesis, which I always start with, because I want you to realize that what I'm looking at is not just one time frame. It's a movement of energy that starts 3 months before the date we're looking at and continues to 3 months after the date in question. So what we're looking at in June, for June 29th, is going to finish in September. So the beauty of looking at charts this way, instead of taking one frozen moment in time and assuming that that gives you the picture, is you begin to see process. And process is really what you need in order to be conscious. So I always start with 3 months before the event, which is the precursor in terms of when our cortex begins to register what's going on and what we want to have happen. By the time the event happens, which would be June 29th, the full moon, the sun would be in Cancer. And then by the time we finish in September, it's going to be in Libra. So that's pretty important to know. And the mandala that I'm showing you here is using a sort of graphic akin to the tree of life at the center, also chakras. Around the circle, we have the astrology wheel, and everything in my mandala synthesis, as I call it, is color coded. So when you see a dark green, you know it's Scorpio. Or when you see this other green, you know it's Libra. So violet, you know it's Aquarius. So you see the color coding around the wheel, and you also see the correspondence to the hexagrams. I always work with the four worlds delineated in the tree of life. And what's especially important, especially at this time that we're all going through collectively, is to realize that the mental waking world, the world of your daily life, and the physical biological world, the world of your body and of your body chemistry, those two worlds are the only worlds that have a solar plexus, an emotional center, which means that when you're emotionally reactive, it is most likely coming from some trigger in the real world. On the spiritual and emotional angelic axis, you have the depth of your soul, and you have the ability within that soul spirit to transform emotional energy into compassion and love. And that means compassion and love for yourself and for others. I use the tree of life, and what we're going to be especially focusing on is the 27th path of intelligence, which goes between the solar plexus and the splenic center. The solar plexus is emotional reactivity. The splenic center is the transformational aspect. And in the June 29th, we are also looking at some transformational higher octave energies. The noble energy maps are here on these two pages. So we have 8 energy maps that we're looking at. And those energy maps are showing us the 3-month date and the June 29th date, a week before, 2 days before, and an hour and a half before the event itself, which happens in Eastern Time at 7:56 p.m. on June 29th. We have a full moon. Postnatally, which means after June 29th, there is an unfolding into manifestation of what has been activated in you on the 29th. So there's a physical component, an emotional angelic component, and notice that in the emotional angelic, we have an activation between the sacral center and the root. And in the day of June 29th, we have an activation of the sacral center to the root. Then we lose it. So for the most part, on the inner plane and on September 29th, there is no sacral activation. What that tells us is that you're going to have a sense for what you want to accomplish. And you may even have some goals that you set in motion on the 29th of June. But you're going to question yourself. When you make a decision over the next short period of time, be clear within your own gut. And I say gut because that's where the Holy Spirit resides, the sacral center, where you know what you know when you know it, and no one can tell you you don't know it. That's when you have inner alignment. In the charts that I'm looking at, we have an activated solar plexus and an activated crown to the ajna, to the throat, and from the root to the sacral center. But notice it happens to have a triple split. That's unusual, but it's almost as though on that day of that full moon, you're not going to know quite where to put yourself or what's right for you. And you're going to be picking up energy from all around you. So it's going to be rather confusing. I would advise that you formulate hypotheses and then wait a day or two and check it out again, because that's when the sacral center comes back in through a different channel, mind you. You will have a sense for what's aligned, and you will know within yourself what you really want. The question is, how does it play out? These are the composite charts. So on the 29th, this is what we're looking at, the integrated approach to your life. You're going to have some thoughts. You're going to know what you want for yourself, what role you want to play. You're going to have feelings that may be triggered and activated and need transformation. So I would not be surprised if many of you on the 29th or thereabouts experience some challenges, and challenges more about what you want and who you are than what you want to do. But it's important that you take time, especially on the 29th, to go within, to take some time, close your eyes, settle back, notice your breathing. Make sure your breathing is relaxed. If you feel tense and distracted, that tells you that something emotional has triggered. Ask, what do I know now about what I'm feeling? And is it inside of me, or did it come from outside of me? And the feeling I have is like what? Those kinds of questions on a day like June 29th are very important kinds of questions, because you want to know what you actually feel, not what you think, because your thinking may be skewed by the planets or skewed by the emotional energy that's being triggered in you by other people. And you do have an open splenic center. We all do. Now that's going to interact with your personal chart. So if you have a defined splenic center natally, as I do, then you're not going to lose it. But you may find that there are some emotional challenges and that you have to go within and take stock of what you actually feel. When we look at the astrology, it's very interesting. It's interesting for a number of different reasons. In Eastern Time, we see that the planets are all on the bottom to the right side of the astrological wheel. They go from the first house in Capricorn, Moon in Capricorn, wanting to be grounded, wanting to know what's happening. Pluto, right on the second house cusp, resources. And Pluto in Aquarius is pushing all of us to be ourselves, to be recognizing our own individual resources at this particular time. The sun is in the seventh house opposite the moon. And that's the house of relationships. So be cognizant of putting energy into primary relationships, sharing what you feel, how you are, and what each other needs to have happen or wants to have happen. So you support each other because it's a time to be caring, to be kind, and to be a good partner. Notice that there's quite a bit activating the eighth house. Now, the two planets in the eighth house on the 29th are Leo, Venus in Leo, and the South Node in Virgo. That's an interesting combo in the eighth house because Leo, the lion, is going to push forward and it's pushing in a good aspect to make things happen in the world. The South Node in Virgo says, make sure that this is grounded. Don't be too woo-woo out there and too far out on what you really want for yourself at the core of who you are and what is important to you. There is some activation in communication and creative communication. So if you are holding off on some conversations with people, that would be a good time to feel into whether the timing is right. These are the dwads. The dwads are the undercurrent. And what's interesting is the sun, the South Node, and Saturn are all in the ninth house. So it's also a rather important time. This is the undercurrent, like the unconscious components of the planetary configuration that's activated in the astrological chart. So when we see the placement of the planets, and I did do a bi-wheel so we could see how they pair up. And what you can see is there's a lot going on down at the core of the being on the 29th. So make sure that what you plan on the 29th of June, what you're activating in your life, is aligned with your values, is aligned with what's right for you and what feels on a gut level like it's true. When we go back to the noble energy maps with that information in mind, astrologically, and we look at the integrated chart, what you see is that the integrated chart, which is the September 29th chart, is giving you an opportunity over the next 3 months, starting on June 29th, to get your act together, to align with what's right for you in the role that's right for you in a way that both touches your spiritual core as well as what you want to manifest in the world. And you have been able to take your emotional reactions and using your breathing and using your intuitive sense of what's right for you, you're able to know where to be and how to be. So I would recommend to all of you listeners that you have the summer with the June 29th coming into the summertime and coming to fruition the end of September. Take time over the summer to tune in to what's really right for you and what you want to accomplish over the next 6 month period of time. Set your goals and make certain when you do that they align 100% with your soul. I always say, when you know what you know, and no one can tell you you don't know, you are not selfish or stubborn, you are aligned. That is where you want to stand firm and not compromise. We're coming into a time that will have challenges because you're going to be picking up the emotional activation of the unconscious people around you. Don't fall for it. Take the energy of this time and be aware that the collective energy has been in a very important time of transition. The activation on the sun, the solar flares, the volcanoes, the earthquakes, all going on right now, are activating people and they're unsettling to a lot of people. What is important for you is to take the time to really go within and make sure that what you're feeling and what you do aligns with you 100%. It's a good time to be creative, to be innovative, and to make certain that what you're doing is what you want to do. Do what you love what you do. Be with people who align with you and avoid confrontation. It is a good time for you to go inward and to be clear within yourself what you want to accomplish for your own consciousness. With that, I'll sign off wishing you well. And if you've enjoyed this, subscribe to the channel, and I will be doing the updates on the new and full moon twice a month. And in between times, if there's something important, I'll be sure to post it. See you then.